Our Austrian Grand
Prix.
F1 driver ratings. Hello everybody and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. It's Austrian Grand Prix driver ratings. That's right. A completely and utterly non-controversial, non-entertaining race. No confusing sprint weekends to go through. Just straight down the line 10s for everyone today, right, Tommy?
Absolutely. It's not made it difficult at all, but it has made there plenty to talk about, especially in our US tour as well. Ooh, segue.
Oh, what a segue. Our US live P1 show is now officially up and running. You can buy tickets, okay? You can go to Toronto, Phoenix Theatre on the 8th of October, the 9th of October, New York at the Gramercy Theatre, the 13th of October, Chicago Park West, the 14th of October, Seattle Neptune, and then on the 16th of October, Los Angeles Regent, and then on the 20th of October, which is the Sunday of the race in Austin, we're going to be in Austin at Emo's. So, tickets are live. Right, let's get into driver ratings then, shall we? And begin with Kevin Magnussen. Sprint qualified 11th, finished the sprint in 9th, and then qualified 12th and finished 8th. I'm going to give Kevin Magnussen a whopping 9 out of 10. He's had a great weekend. Of course, we're taking into account a sprinkling of sprint and then the main race, of course. In the sprint, he was best of the rest by a mile. Bloke was just chilling, loving life. And then in the main race as well, finishes 8th. Yes, he didn't beat Nico Hülkenberg, but I'm very impressed. Maybe not so much with the not wanting to work as a team, and that could have ended up similar to Verstappen and Norris or Ocon and Gasly in some senses, but it didn't.
Yeah, I've also gone for a 9 out of 10 for Kevin Magnussen. He's been very good recently, and this was arguably his best weekend so far of the season. Very, very quick. It's a shame he didn't quite put it together in qualifying for the main race, because that's the one where points can be scored. It's always disappointing that, you can have an absolutely brilliant sprint. I go back to, I think, Zhou, maybe last sprint, where you do an absolutely brilliant sprint, but you have nothing to show for it because barely any points get handed out.
Well done, K-Mag, and the fans gave him an 8. Nico Hülkenberg qualified for the sprint in 17th, finished 19th, got a 10-second penalty as well for forcing another driver off the track, and then qualified for the main race in 9th and finished 6th.
I have gone for a 10 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. And of course, you'll look at that and go, well, you've got to take account into the sprint, and you have, but his race was so good that it doesn't really matter about the sprint because, like we just said, it's so hard to score points anyway that the midfield are never going to score points. So it's the main race where you have to deliver, and the guy beat a Red Bull.
Had a hole in his side pod, Tommy.
Well,
he had a gaping hole.
We're not talking about Perez now.
Half of his car was missing, Tommy. Sorry, I just wanted to get that there. Just put that into the atmosphere before I just see some comments already, because that was, half baked. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a brilliant, brilliant drive. Absolutely fantastic. A drive that shows that someone like Audi have made the absolute right decision, still put faith in someone like Nico Hülkenberg because he can still deliver.
I have also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. Yes, the sprint wasn't ideal, but he's absolutely made up for it in the main race. Just, brilliant from both drivers. It's not like he completely and utterly outshone Magnussen. Magnussen wasn't too far behind, but Nico beating Perez, doesn't matter necessarily about other exterior factors. He fought tooth and nail on that last lap to make sure that he finished ahead of him. And the fans also gave him a 10 out of 10. Wow. Fans no wheel. Love that. Zhou Guan Yu, sprint qualified 20th, finished the sprint in 20th, qualified 20th and finished 17th. God, I said a lot of 20ths, and now I'm like, is a 4 out of 10 fair? I'm going to go for a 4 out of 10, mainly because his teammate didn't do too much better, so I think it was just another weekend of fluorescent green wheelie bins for Sauber, which is such a shame, considering in Spain they actually looked much better and they sort of reverted back to not being very good again. I'm sure someone will comment saying on lap 47, well, of course, he did have that contact with Alonso, which I've taken into account. That's why I haven't given him a 3 or a 2. He was hit pretty hard, so I'll take that. Perhaps he was suffering a little bit there, but it's still not a great performance. He's not exactly setting himself up for success, is he?
No, he's not. I've also gone for a 4 out of 10. It was just unfortunate. Zhou Guan Yu's kind of normal race after a brilliant one in Spain, where it looked like, this is the kind of level he needs to be delivering now, and he's back to being last. Now, he wasn't last by a country mile like sometimes we've seen before in the sessions and things, but yeah, it's just not good. But the reason it's a 4 is exactly like you say, that it looked like Stake were just pretty woeful anyway.
They certainly were, and the fans also gave Zhou a 4. We now go to Valtteri Bottas. Sprint qualified 18th, finished the sprint in 18th, qualified 18th, and finished 16th.
It's a 5 out of 10. Another classic Sauber, straight down the middle, not done anything, not bad, not good.
I'd say they're quite bad.
They are bad. I don't think Bottas has been bad, but it's hard to. I don't know about you, but it feels like Alfa Romeo when they were Alfa Romeo, and they've been like this for years. Of just they're never there. They don't even seem to go up and down. They're just existing. Like, you never have these like crazy races where they do something. I think they had 1 year maybe at the start where Bottas was doing something quite good at the start of the new regs, but yeah, they're just so anonymous. It's quite embarrassing, really.
It's almost like they've given up and they're like, okay, Audi, you can take over the reins now. Enjoy.
Yeah.
But
maybe it is. They are literally just waiting for that to happen. So
strange that they're still here, though. Maybe they didn't have a buyer until 2026, and that's why they're still just kind of chilling and trying to maintain some kind of market value, and then off they go. The fans gave Bottas a 5 as well. Yuki Tsunoda, sprint qualified 14th, finished the sprint in 13th, qualified for the main race in 14th, and finished 14th. It's a 5 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. I don't think the RB was necessarily brilliant. They've fallen off a cliff a little bit in these last few races, so I'm just because his teammate did quite well, I'm not going to completely and utterly slander Yuki, but it's just not a great weekend for him. He didn't do a particularly crazy strategy or anything like that. Just was off. He even said after the race that the pace was off, and that they'll have to find out why. So that's why I'm going straight down the middle for a 5.
5 out of 10 for me as well.
Snap.
It is another
Snap.
Yeah, I know.
Snap.
So far, at least.
Let's see if we can get a clean sweep. Come on. Let's go.
Yeah, a bit like Bottas, really, in terms of like a performance. He's kind of not completely over-delivered with his car, not completely under-delivered with his car. It's just a bit of a mediocre race for Yuki when his teammate has actually done a very good job.
The fans gave Yuki a 5 as well. Now it's Daniel Ricciardo. Sprint qualified 16th, started the sprint in 14th, main qualifying 11th, and finished 9th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Daniel Ricciardo. Much better drive from him.
Frank also agrees. What are you barking at, Frank? What's going on? No?
Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, brilliant drive for a P9. Much more what he needs to do. It kind of, you said this in the race podcast, actually, that went really under the radar. Wonder why. What happened in that race to distract us all? I don't know.
A very good drive indeed. Daniel Ricciardo, as Frank goes into another barking fit. It's between 2 for me. I'm just like, he's scored points in an RB that's looked horrendous. Am I being a little bit too generous? No, we'll go with an 8. We'll go with an 8 for Daniel Ricciardo. As you say, I think was the most under-the-radar point scorer of the lot, I think. And I think he definitely needed this as well. It was a bit of a settler for Daniel. So yeah, 8 out of 10 from me. And the fans also gave Daniel an 8. Logan Sargent, sprint qualified 15th. Finished the sprint in 16th. Qualified the main race in 19th and finished 19th. Oh dear, the weekend started great for old Logie Bear, and then he finished about 25 seconds off the back of anyone, which deserves a 2 out of 10. It's a 2 out of 10 for Logan. A really poor race. I know he got caught up in a bit of contact, I think, with Stroll at turn 3, but my God, I know that his strategy wouldn't have been great because of the fact he had to pit early, but still, nowhere. Absolutely nowhere for pace, where Albon was getting in the mix a bit, you know what I mean? Showing that there is some kind of pace in that Williams. But Logan, once again, a very anonymous, at the back, nowhere near anyone else kind of race. So I can't give him any more than a 2.
Yeah, I've gone for a 3 out of 10 for Logan. It's a shame because, like you say, it started off so well, out qualifying Albon, going, yes, finally, although he's done it in the sprint again. But then even in the sprint, he was so slow that Albon caught him right at the end. And I think, Albon started from the pit lane in a sprint and still almost passed Logan. And then in the race, he is just so slow, like so slow.
Logan finished over a minute behind his own teammate. So he would have very nearly been lapped by his own teammate.
And did Albon not get, penalty? Yeah, he did. So, wow.
Without that penalty, that could have been a lapping. The fans also gave Logan a 2 out of 10. Alex Albon, sprint qualified 19th, but obviously started from the pit lane, finished the sprint in 17th, and then qualified 16th and finished 15th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Not his best weekend, to say the least. Got a penalty. Looked like he could have maybe got a good result at one point, but I don't think points were ever on for Williams. So 5 out of 10 for Albon.
Yeah, I've gone for a 5 as well, straight down the middle. Of course, he got a 5-second penalty for crossing the pit entry, but of course, ending up 14th, I think it was. It's not, 15th even. How did he finish 15th? Who had a penalty at the end? Because he crossed the line in 14th. Oh, was he holding that penalty and therefore, okay, so he had that penalty. And then hadn't served it, and then dropped behind Sonoda. It's a 5 out of 10, and the fans also gave Alex a 5. Esteban Ocon, sprint qualified 8th, finished the sprint in 11th, qualified for the main race in 10th, and finished 12th. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Ocon. Alpine are not bad now, clearly. Like both himself and Gasly are now getting in the mix and getting into Q3, so points are absolutely on the cards, and Ocon didn't manage to score in either of them, despite, of course, starting the sprint in a points-paying position, and then also in the main race as well. So what could have been? Of course, he was fighting Gasly very hard. That could have ended in tears. Thankfully, it didn't. But still, 6 out of 10, I think, warrants Ocon's performance this weekend.
Yeah, I've gone for a 6 as well. I was umming and ahhing between a 6 and a 7, but I think the fact that they haven't scored points when they could have easily, and you look at people that have scored points like Haas's and Daniel Ricciardo, shows it was absolutely there for Alpine. Ocon qualified very well in both races, it has to be said, so points were definitely on the cards.
Okay, and the fans also gave Ocon a 6. Pierre Gasly, sprint qualified 9th, finished the sprint in 12th, qualified for the main race in 13th, and finished 10th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. Great job to get points, but then everything I just said before with Alpine, that points were there. It's not a 9 or a 10, even though he scored points, because he has finished behind, Haas's and an RB, and I think on another day with a better performance and a better drive, he might have beaten them. So
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly, just purely because I can't give 2-point difference between himself and Ocon. I think it was about 7-second difference in the end. I don't think it was a absolutely outrageous drive from Gasly to warrant an 8, but still it was a decent enough, scored a point. But I think it was, what could have been really. They definitely lost a little bit of time when the two teammates decided not to work together. But alas, we move on. 7 out of 10 for Gasly, and the fans gave him an 8. Lance Stroll, sprint qualified 12th, finished the sprint in 10th, qualified for the main race in 17th, and finished 13th. It's 5 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Aston Martin are depressing to watch, as we know. I don't think we saw him all that much either for Stroll. I think he had contact, didn't he, as I mentioned earlier, with Logan. I don't think he had damage or anything. It's just that's what the pace is of the Aston Martin. He beats Alonso, and you'd think, wow, 5 out of 10, but I think that's more telling of Alonso's race, if anything. So yes, straight down the middle.
Yep, Lance is another 5 out of 10. It's another driver that has basically, delivered. It didn't do great in qualifying in the main race, but Aston have dropped off terribly, and we can see that now with how Alonso's performing as well. So not the best weekend for Stroll, but certainly not as bad.
Well, let's get on to his teammate, Fernando Alonso. Sprint qualified 13th, finished the sprint in 15th, qualified for the main race in 15th, and finished 18th.
I've gone for a 3 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso.
Good. Take that fanboy cape off and really start slapping him about now. Come on.
He's obviously beaten Stroll in qualifying, but He's done that many times. That's like probably the only positive fanboy thing I can say in this whole weekend, because I don't think Aston Martin are able to deliver points now. Or maybe they could, like just in like a P10 or something. They've clearly fallen off massively. But for Alonso to, go steaming into an incident and crash into someone as well, his form has really taken a nosedive recently, and it's painful to see, really.
It certainly is. I've also gone for a 3 out of 10. I'm glad you did, because I thought I might have to explain myself, and I thought a 4 was coming out. But just a really disappointing weekend. Hitting Zhou, getting a 10-second penalty for that. Even if he drives the race of his life, that is a points-ending chance for Alonso after that. But there was no speed. Alonso, 3 out of 10, and the fans gave him a 4. Oscar Piastri, sprint qualified 3rd. Finished the sprint in 2nd, qualified 7th, and finished 2nd. It's a 9 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri from me. I'm not even going to judge him too harshly on the qualifying mistake, just purely because I think it's a load of BS. Still, I do feel for him because of the nature of where he lost his lap. I'm not happy with that, and he wasn't either. But overall, a great weekend for Piastri. He fought back through, because of course that put him on the back foot starting 7th, but kept his nose sort of clean, even though he ruined Charles Leclerc's race. Actually, no, 3 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri.
I've also gone for a 9 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. I was umming and ahhing between an 8 and a 9, but I think it's borderline. But yeah, I do agree that the mistake, if you can call it that, it's not really a mistake, it's more misfortune. Brilliant sprint, of course. He, I think, unfairly got some weird criticism for daring to overtake Lando and do a brilliant job when we're all slandering Perez for being nowhere near his teammate. Yes, of course, he inherited the podium in the end, but he was still having a very good race.
Absolutely. The fans gave Oscar a 9 as well. Lando Norris. Sprint qualified
Here we go.
Finished the sprint in 3rd. Qualified 2nd, and did not finish.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lando Norris. That is because we'll start with the sprint, and he should have won that sprint.
Should have won?
Finished.
I mean, it's a bit harsh. I mean, he didn't really have the pace, but he should have led, I would say. Max drove away at the end of that sprint.
Right, okay. He had DRS on Max Verstappen after overtaking him and finished the race 3rd. I think that's called not maximising your result. And then, while I still am of the view that Max Verstappen is majority and heavy majority to blame for the incident, I think Lando made such hard work of passing Max that I think is the reason that I'm downgrading him to a 7, because he could, and in my opinion should, have come away with 2 at least, not at least, but like 2 P1s basically. And I really think that was there for the taking for him. And yes, Max has done some very, very questionable moves, but I can't believe he's just not got past him. And I think it was Max getting in his head. Some of the moves were quite insane, and he was leaving too much space. I think Anthony Davidson, summarised it extremely well.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm listening to Anthony Davidson on the Sky Pad right now.
but it's so true. Like, I think he should have definitely passed Max.
Okay, my grade for Lando Norris is an 8 out of 10. I'm of a similar opinion that his overtakes were borderline wild, some of them. Like, he sent it. I did enjoy that Max Verstappen in the car at one point said, dive bombs aren't the way to overtake or something. And I was like, sorry? Yeah. You are the king of dive bombs. Shall we go back to 2021? But no, but focusing more on Lando's race, yes, I think that he obviously felt that there was a time window to this. He had an opportunity and he wanted to take it. And from an entertainment perspective, absolutely amazing. But Lando did make mistakes under braking, trying to overtake Max. But Lando wasn't perfect in that battle either. He was trying different things, and when we're looking at the incident as a whole, like that particular incident that ended both of their chances of winning, that was primarily almost almost completely Max Verstappen's fault. But as a battle, Lando could have easily avoided that by just getting past. Yeah, disappointing. And I'm now thinking I should have given him a 7. But I'm going to go with an 8 because I still think that in terms of he put himself in that position, he was fighting for the win, and had it not been for the incident that wasn't his fault in my eyes, he still probably would have won that race. And as Anthony Davidson said, that was probably the move that would have got him the victory had they come out of that corner unscathed, because he would have got a great run. But alas, shoulda, woulda, coulda, mum wheels bike. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 from me, and the fans gave him a 9 out of 10. Moving on to Carlos Sainz. Sprint qualified 5th, finished the sprint in 5th. Qualified 4th, finished 3rd. It's an 8 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz from me. A very good weekend, where his teammate was having all kinds of issues, some out of his own control. But Carlos had a solid weekend. He was right in the mix. Was only, 5 seconds or so from inheriting a win. So he was in that mix with the Mercedes, and there's obviously Piastri as well. So I can't really fault him too much.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Carlos. I think it was a very good drive. Maximised the result, I think, all weekend from a Ferrari that sadly isn't there. But this is what Ferrari can do now, and I think Carlos absolutely maximised the result. Qualifying 4th, for example, in the main race was a brilliant achievement. And of course, he's inherited through contact, but you've got to be there to do it. So very good drive from Carlos.
And the fans gave Carlos an 8. Charles Leclerc. Sprint qualified 10th, finished the sprint in 7th, qualified 6th, finished 11th.
I have gone... it's really difficult, this one. I've gone for a 5. It's incredibly difficult because he's had so many problems, and so many of them are for different reasons. It's not he's had an absolute shocker of a weekend where he's been terrible. Of course, he made the mistake in qualifying, but then the car issue wasn't his fault that put him down in the sprint. Contact at the start, the reason it is as low as a 5 is because you put yourself in that position when you have a lower qualifying. You're always going to be in that mix. And it was unfortunate. Yeah, it was a weird race of just lots of things going wrong. Sometimes Charles' fault, sometimes bad luck.
I have also gone for a 5 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc, which might surprise people because a lot of people actually took my tweet that I replied to the P1 with Matt and Tommy Twitter account when we were asking for questions of me saying, should Charles Leclerc have gotten driver of the day from P20 to P11 as serious, when obviously that was a joke. But no, it was a weekend to forget for Charles. Just problems galore, qualifying 6th. He's in the pack going into turn 1. It's something that can happen. If he qualifies 3rd, it's probably not happening. Yeah, just not a great weekend. I think he mentioned that the two cars were very differently set up between himself and Sainz. But no excuses. I think Charles had a reasonably mediocre weekend if you take everything into account. So that's why I've gone for a 5. And the fans gave him a 5 as well. George Russell, sprint qualified 4th, started the sprint in 4th, qualified 3rd, finished 1st. Oh, it's so hard because he's won the race, and yet I want to give him a 9. Am I being unfair? Oh, my days.
Shall we go first?
No! I'm going to do it! I'm going to do it! It's going to be... It has to be a 10. George won the bloody race. It's a 10. Well done, George. You got a 10. He was there. He did everything he needed to do in the mix. Qualified well. It was quite a quiet race up until that point, but he had to beat everyone else around him that have similarly paced cars, the Ferraris and his own teammate. Of course, he had a little bit of damage, and then Piastri coming through as well. I think for him to beat Oscar on track in a car that everyone will say is the fastest car, it's going to be a 10. Well done, George.
Yep, I've also gone for a 10 out of 10 for George Russell.
Thank God.
And I will go as far as saying that I was similar to you at the start, where I thought, oh yeah, George Russell will be a 9 because he's inherited a win. And I actually looked into it, and I would have given him a 10, even if Lando and Max hadn't crashed. Because he has done such a good job all weekend. You look at the results that he's done, qualified fourth in the sprint, finished fourth in the sprint, shouldn't really be qualifying that Mercedes third. Brilliant job again. And yeah, just an awesome weekend from George. And I think I've underrated George Russell, and I think a lot of people have. He did have a terrible year last year, it has to be said, but he is doing such a good job. I think we need to have the conversation of how good George Russell is doing at the moment. But I think this year he is kind of reminding everyone why he was that driver that we were all going, oh God, get Bottas out that car and put Russell in. He's the next big thing. He's so good. I think he's doing that again.
Speaking of respect, not getting respect he deserves, the fans gave him a 9 out of 10. Lewis Hamilton, sprint qualified 6th, finished the sprint in 6th, qualified 5th and finished 4th.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10. It was another race where he kind of came on the radio and stuff afterwards and just said, like, I've been terrible. It's not been my weekend. 4th is not a bad result, but when you think your teammates won the race, made the mistake, very un-Hamilton-like, coming into the pits, even though it was the tiniest little thing, it's still a mistake, still costly. Everyone knows that you can't do that coming into the pits. You need to be careful.
Tommy, we said Oscar Piastri, and on his qualifying lap, that was a millimetre, and we all were like, oh, poor Oscar.
And he got a penalty.
Yeah, but
and so did Lewis Hamilton. It was weird because he looked rapid at the start again of the race, and he caught right up to George, and it was going, oh, here we go again. Russell, great quali, going back into the pack. Hamilton made up places, but then just faded. Seemed like he had some damage, but it's just not a good weekend, and he himself admitted it. So
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 as well for Lewis. Of course, had that damage, which I haven't seen a replay of when Sainz and himself touched, and then also had a very slow pit stop as well. Either or, still a weekend kind of to forget, to not even be on the podium, sadly, for Hamilton when your teammates winning the race and the two leaders have come together. Of course, losing a bit of time with that damage, but still, it's just not really worked out this season for Hamilton so far, and I'm praying to see him back at the front because it's where he belongs and we all want to see him. 7 out of 10 from me, and the fans gave him a 7 as well. Sergio Perez, sprint qualified 7th, finished the sprint in 8th, qualified 8th, finished 7th. It's going to be a 3 out of 10 for Sergio Perez this weekend. No lower than that because he had a hole in his car, which I've been told several times. So thank you everybody for getting involved and letting me know that he had a hole in his car. Unlucky, of course, to pick up that damage, but also don't push Piastri off the track and maybe you won't make contact. Of course, it is lap 1, heavy fuel, bit of understeer. So I'm going to give him the slight benefit of the doubt there. But either or, still a weekend to forget. It's not like he was at the front and then picked up damage and then was rubbish. He wasn't showing any pace at any point really during the weekend. Another weekend, like Hamilton kind of, but in a lot worse, to forget.
Yeah, I've gone for a 3 for Sergio Perez as well. You can say all you like about the the hole in the side pod, but like you say, if he'd have qualified second and finished second in the sprint or won the sprint or maybe P3, he'd gone, oh, Perez actually had loads of pace this weekend, and it's not happened for him in the main race because of damage, but he showed no signs all weekend of that happening. So it's just shockingly bad. Regardless of the damage, you shouldn't be racing a Haas.
You should not. The fans also gave Perez a 3, so we are in unison with that one. I wonder if we'll be in unison for the next one. Max Verstappen, sprint qualified first, finished the sprint in first, qualified first, finished 5th.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for Max. It's the same as Lando. Won the sprint, maybe arguably shouldn't have won the sprint. I'm still adamant Lando should have won that race. And then in the main race, he's cost himself a chance of victory or even a P2, but he hasn't because he's defended extremely aggressively. He's kind of put that theory to bed that he's kind of calmed down and wouldn't be like this anymore. I do agree with him to a point when he was kind of saying, I'm here to race hard and win the race. I'm not going to just let someone go by. But for me, it was too extreme. He got the penalty for it, so that's fair enough. The driving throughout the whole thing was quite extreme, and you can argue that maybe in a bizarre way he's come out of it even better, because he's still in every driver's head of you can't pass me or I will crash into you, and it will make him feared the next time Lando tries to do it again. Yeah, I've gone for a 7 because it's downgraded for the fact that he could have won or finished second and he's finished 5th.
Okie dokie, I have gone for a 6 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. I can't give him the same grade as Lando because at the end of the day, he is predominantly to blame for the reason why they were both taken out. It's no lower than a 6 because the actual incident, I don't think there was anything malicious about it. If anything, I think that was the least aggressive defence of the lot. And that was the one that caused both of them a puncture. The ones before, he is a very lucky boy. The first one, in particular, I think the second one was, just Max doing a little bit of a don't lock up. But the first one had Baku vibes written all over it. The way he kind of moved as Lando went. Lando's right up his diffuser. He'll lose loads of braking performance that way, and they're very lucky that there wasn't a massive crash for that particular one. So yeah, it is Max Verstappen. It's the way he drives. Should he be slandered for it? I don't think it's the worst he's ever driven in terms of a defence. It is the way he will always defend. And until the stewards do something about it, he will continue to defend that way. You've got to respect that he's a Schumacher. He's a tenacious racer. It's a 6 out of 10 for Max. The fans gave Max a 7. Now, how spread was that?
Yes, okay, I'll go into it. So, 5% of people gave him a 0. 2% a 1, 2% a 2, 5% a 3, 8% a 4, 10% a 5, 17% a 6, 21% a 7, 17% an 8, 7% a 9, and 2% a 10. So it's definitely the graph of results are looking like more close across the board. We very rarely see people with as close to a 0 as they are a 10, basically. And
this is it. It's a contentious incident. No one's ever going to agree on this sort of thing, just like no one agreed in 2021. You're all entitled to your own opinion. I will say that in the main podcast, and I'll hold my hands up, I made it sound like Max said he wasn't at fault. When you actually look at what he sort of said, he didn't accept blame. That's absolutely true. But it was more like, I'll have a look at it and we'll see. But then he also went and said, like, his defences were absolutely fine, and he was basically saying that, how it feels in the car. The XF1 drivers are entitled to their own opinion. Hence why it came across like Max felt like
I don't think he apologised. Like that is Max. That is exactly the response. Like I could have written it out, like exactly how he'd respond. It would be like, "Oh, I'm here to race. We go racing. I'm not going to let him through. I'll look into it." And that's the one thing to cover actually from the podcast side. I'm not normally one to care what people think, but like we can say that a driver made a mistake while still thinking, oh my god, this is the most excitable, amazing Formula One action that we've seen in a long time. It was brilliant to watch. Can't say I agree with like was it fair, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I wasn't being a party pooper by going, I don't want to see that, because sign me up to that every single weekend, because it was absolute drama.
Okay, who is our P1? Oh, it's between two for me, and I'm going to give it to Nico Hülkenberg. Go on the Nico, because I was more confident in my 10, so I'm going to give Nico the 10 and the P1 because he beat a Red Bull and it was an amazing drive. So that's it. Nico is my P1.
Oh, it's really close, but I think I'm going to go Nico as well. It was such a superb drive. Amazing points for Haas. Well, is that not their best result of the season so far? So
yeah, that's it. Cool. Right, we're done. Driver ratings done and dusted. I'm sure everybody will agree with our opinions and you'll all be very nice and calm in the comments. Remember, USA live show tickets are now available. They're selling quite quickly, so if you want to come and see us, please do. And also, we're going to be on the main stage at Silverstone, 11 a.m. on Sunday. Please come and go woo! Go Tommy!
I'll wear my Max Verstappen t-shirt and cape. That'll go down well.
Will you? That will be, yeah. You know what? You can go on the stage on your own, mate. And that is it. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.